welcome everybody today to our new guest, Jeff, who is one of our favorite Friday merchants. And a big thank you to Jeff too, because every time the Senior Center has an event, Jeff has always been so helpful and amenable about choosing wines for the event. So thank you, Jeff, for that, and welcome. And my first question to you today is, could you please tell us where you are?
I'm at Harbor Square Wine Shop, just up from the ferry terminal on the other side of Winslow Way, next to the police station, and Classic Cycle. And right now you're looking, I believe, at our Chardonnay section, which is right at the beginning of the shop. So I felt like we'd just do a slow movie pan through the wines, and if you see some bottle that interests you, say, hey, what's that? And then kind of move from there. Sorry.
So are the Chardonnays, are some oaky? So did you put all the Chardonnays together? Because French Chardonnays are not oaky. Are they in this section, or are they in a different section?
I did the section from the very beginning, from what would be considered oaky and malolactic, which gives it that creaminess, slowly moving through the section to the Chablis, which are the lighter, unoaked, more minerally crisper ones. And I just felt like white wines, from different regions, there's not a lot. I just felt like they all needed to be together, versus the reds we kind of did by country and region. But for the whites, I didn't want to jump around all over the store going, oh, now we have to go to California and then we have to go to France. So I just felt like, let's get them all together and do a nice little scale from the beginning, going kind of the creamy, buttery, and then slowly, like, you get into the Marceaus and the Pouilly-Foussés, which are, kind of richer, fuller bodied, but light, as French go, and then ending in the classic minerally Chablis. And then we slide into the Rhone varietals, the Viogniers, Grenache Blancs, and then into our Italians and Pinot Grigios from the Alsace and also from Italy, and then right down at Elk Cove in the Willamette Valley, and then into your Sauvignon Blancs and Semillons from Bordeaux, the Loire Valley, from South Africa, California, and then
New Zealand.
And how are we doing? I don't have that camera.
Do you have any white wines from South Africa, from New Zealand, or from Australia?
I have a beautiful Australian Chardonnay that it has a little documentary about it, and then I also have a beautiful Chardonnay from New Zealand as well. And then if we go into the cold case, we have our more classic New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, which is that rich apricot flavors, and then we have our kind of can to go wine and sparkling, and then every day is rosé day for me, so we have some nice year-round rosés right below all our wonderful cheeses and pestos and stuff that you can make up nice little pizzas and treats. And then we go into our reds from France, starting in the Languedoc and then the Rhone, then sliding into Bordeaux. Bordeaux blends, are mostly either on the right bank, which are mostly Merlot dominant, to the left bank, which is mostly Cabernet dominant in the blend. And then on the top part of this rack is all our house champagnes. House champagne differs from grower champagne, which is going to be on the other side, where they source their grapes from a whole bunch of different vintners, and versus the grower is exactly what it is. They grow their own grapes and make their own champagne. And then we get into Burgundy, which is 100% Pinot Noir when it's red, or Chardonnay when it's white. And then we end in the Loire Valley and with the Cabernet Francs. And then we're going to slide into the southern.
So Jeff, before you go, which of all those French wines is probably the most popular with your clientele?
The Bordeaux's are probably the most popular, and I would say my favorite right now is this little Chateau Rendon. It's $10. It drinks absolutely wonderful. Probably our number 2 one is the Chateau Carignan for $20. And then the kind of going up in price, the Cologne Ségur or the Beaujolais or Saint Estèphe are kind of up there on the regular sales of stuff. But yeah, the $10 ones, we have a few different ones that kind of vary, but this one's been kind of one of the more popular ones, as has been the Chateau de Roque from Saint-Emilion.
Okay. So they're all the Loire Valley, yeah.
Bordeaux.
Bordeaux, okay.
Yeah, the Loire Valley, we just are bringing in a beautiful Cabernet Franc that'll be $20 from Chenin, and then we also have some upper end ones from the little bit more northern from out of Beaujolais. And then now around the corner, we start down in Sicily with Italians, and then kind of move up north into Tuscany. And
so Jeff, is the wine from Sicily more like a Chianti than the wine?
No, it's a little fuller. It's not quite as dry as a Chianti.
Okay.
But it's really smooth. I would say a little bit more approachable without food. Everybody seems to be loving the Nero d'Albas from Sicily and drinking them quite a bit. I would say, but the Chianti's always been, very, very popular. But the Chianti prices have kind of crept up, so people are kind of looking at more at Umbria and Sicily for kind of Italian value. And luckily, the Italian wines weren't affected by the tariffs of the last year because of the Boeing Airbus feud.
Yeah, so was that just the French wines then?
It was mostly French and Spanish wines, and it was very weirdly written. It was written back, the overall trade sanctions were written back in the 80s. So there were so many examples of what defined dessert wine, which was Tokai, which most people was popular in the 80s, but most people have forgotten all about.
Yeah.
And then champagne was exempt from the tariffs for whatever reason. And then all alcohol over 14% was exempt, which was interesting because, back when it was written, most of the French and Spanish wines were sitting, at 11 to 12%, but now they've kind of grown into that over 14. So a lot of wines weren't that affected by it. But there was enough of it to where it just made everybody pay 30% more. And then we ended in the little Spanish section there. And then I'm going to flip us over to what I would, say would be the New World wines, the California, South African, Washington, Argentinian, Chilean wines, New Zealand. And so we kind of start, and this is our red blend section. So it's all kind of peppered together. I tried to keep it within, country area with like the South African and then then the Australian as we move into the California, and then into the Washington here, and then into South African Pinotages and Pinot Noirs, and then into the Willamette Valley.
Jeff, have you noticed that there seem to me more blends available now than there used to be, which kind of makes a wine smoother, as it were?
Yeah.
Is that the object?
Most wines, from the Europeans have been blended. It was very much a California marketing thing to have the varietal there and that be the dominant thing. But if you are in great vineyards and great spaces, that's a great thing. But if you don't have access to the great vineyard sites, being able to blend gives the winemaker some control over how the wine's going to turn out. In a bad vintage, he can up his Cabernet. He can kind of still make a good wine because he has a little bit more tools in his basket, via the varietal. So that's why you're sort of seeing a little bit more red blends. And back kind of in the 80s, like red blends were designed as cheap, gut-wrenching wines, and so they kind of gave red blends a bad name. But that's kind of that ship's been righted, and now people are like, oh yeah, red blends, I like those, and they do show off a lot more of the ability and expression of the regions that they're in. Especially with Washington having so many different grape varietals planted, it really gives the winemaker a lot to play with. And then these are kind of the Pinots out of Oregon sliding into California. Oregon sort of being in between California and France in that bold flavor profile to the earthier ones of Burgundy. And then we end with our beautiful Argentinian wines and Chilean Carmeneras. And then we slide into some large formats and overstock of stuff. And then we start into our Washington Sangiovese and Cabernet Francs and Tempraneros. And down below we have some South African cabs and Australian cabs and Chilean cabs for really great value. And then some beautiful Washington, single vineyard stuff from Andrew Will and Abeja and Cayuse. And then
So Jeff, could you go back and the great value Washington ones, could you hold the bottle up close to your camera so we could see the labels?
The value ones were in the beautiful Chilean wines.
From Mendoza?
From Mendoza, and then Chile.
Oh, Mendoza's Argentina.
Argentina, yes.
Yeah.
And then the single vineyard Andrew Will wines, which really show off what Washington wines, like a single little area of the Columbia Valley tastes like, but a little bit more expensive, but totally worth the adventure and tasting the depths of flavors of Washington wines.
Yeah.
And then we slide into our lovely California wines, and then the Merlots, the underrated grape that tastes delicious and everybody should drink more of, because Merlot really has some great value, really plays well with a lot of different food, but also can just sit on its own and just be really silky and smooth.
So which is your favorite Merlot?
I would probably say my favorite is the Pride Merlot, but I also do love the Tume Merlot out of Napa, and then the Duckhorn Three Palms is probably considered one of the best California Merlots out there. And then probably is one of the most acclaimed one.
Can you hold the bottle up so we may see the label, please? Is that easy to do with the phone in one hand?
Yeah, how are we doing?
Sorry.
So that's the Pride and the Duck Barn. And then there's the Tume.
Yeah.
And then up top we have the California sparkling wines, Schramsberg, Sea Smoke, and Mums. And then down below we have the very sought after Syrahs of Washington, Cayuse, Rheinvan, the Motor City Kitty, mixed in with some of the beautiful Australian Shirazes. And then we end this main rack with the California Zinfandels.
Yeah.
Big, rich, perfect for barbecue ribs and outside barbecue wine when the weather gets a titch nicer. And then just a quick peek. This is our back cellar where we have all of our first growth Grand Cru Burgundies, beautiful selection of California, China, and Spain and Italy, as well as some old collectible comics and large format wines. And as you can see, I just didn't put away the elf on the shelf this year.
So Jeff, tell us what you're doing about wine tasting with COVID.
Currently, we're not offering tastings just because I want everybody that comes in here to be able to feel safe and comfortable and not be freaked out about, going into a place that people are hanging out at. So that's kind of where we're sitting with the tastings for now. Hopefully that's still a good picture. But yeah, that's kind of been our goal here.
So, Jeff, do you have a case discount if people buy a case?
We do have a 10% case discount on purchase of any 12 bottles or more. And then we also do the Fob Friday, so you can just come in and get 10% off every Friday.
Yeah. For which we're very grateful. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. So
yeah.
Now you saw what everything is. So and tomorrow's Friday, so you all can come in and check.
Yeah, we can all
check. Take it from the virtual to the real.
Yes.
Somebody's trying to show me something.
Yeah, I'm trying to. My camera. I cannot do this.
There it is.
Oh, there we are.
Little check mark there.
Yes, there you go.
There you are in our Splash newsletter that comes out every 2 months. And of course, you have been such a beautiful, faithful Bob Friday business that I just strongly encourage everybody to come down and pick up. I mean, if you can't find it at your shop, you'll not be able to find it anywhere else.
We work with probably 20 different importers and distributors in the state. So, and I don't mind it if it's in the state, we can get it, and I don't mind hunting through all the catalogs to find it. But yeah, if you've had it at a restaurant in the greater Seattle area, we can usually get it, and if you've had it elsewhere, we can usually track it down and find it for everybody.
Well, your enthusiasm certainly shows your passion for wines.
Oh yeah, I love my wine, and it's a new fun collectible thing. I feel and part of the fun of collecting is going out and finding wines and stuff, and then if we don't have it in stock, we easily can order it, and we get kind of bi-weekly deliveries. So for the most part, if you let us know by Wednesday, we should usually be able to get the wine by Friday for you.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
Depending on how hard it is to track down, I would say. But
yeah,
I just had somebody come in today, and we were able to get the wine for them tomorrow for their party.
oh boy, that's wow.
And but I always say, it's like, why don't wait till the last minute on your wine? That
Sure.
should be number one on the list.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
You get location, and then the alcohol, and the rest will all fall together. But as long as you have those two things, you're starting with a good foundation.
That's right. Boy, that's good advice.
Yeah. And then we have all the cheeses to make a perfect little cheese plate and board, and different dips and chips and crackers. And then we just got working with the Essential Baking Company and doing their pizza crusts, and then we have sauce, so you can just make a nice little pizza dinner for yourself and not have to run to the store. You can just come to the wine shop.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
So Jeff, what is the most unusual wine that you've seen or heard about or tried?
Oh gosh, that is a tough question. Probably one of the more unusual ones would be we have a dry ferment from Hungary, which is mostly known for Tokai, but this one is a dry white wine that I went probably 2-3 years ago to a wine luncheon at Wild Ginger, and they did a Tokai pairing, and this was one of the starter ones, and it just paired so well with Asian food and sushi that I just fell in love with it. And that's a pretty odd wine, I would say. Then you can kind of get into some more obscure vineyard locations. Like I just found and was able to get Aquine, which is the people that bought Blackwood Canyon on Red Mountain after Mike passed away. And he was crazy, and if you bought wine from him, you never got it. It was just the experience that you had to experience the crazy man on Red Mountain. But he was one of the best winemakers in the country at one time before he went crazy. And now you can get his wine, and it tastes really wonderful. Or his vineyard, I should say.
Yeah.
And then, those are kind of like the ones that jump out at me right now. But I've gone down the rabbit hole and then have kind of come back. So I haven't been really drinking crazy Middle Eastern wines or, Russian wines or, terrible Hawaiian wines, but I'm sure I'll get back into it. But I've kind of stuck to drinking mostly champagne in the pandemic. I find that to help really well. Just come talk to me, and we'll find out what you like. And I'm pretty good about getting everybody dialed into something that they'll enjoy within the first or second appearance. So
yeah.
And I've tasted every single wine that's under $20 here, so I know exactly what it tastes like. And even the one, if it has an $8 price tag, that's something I would feel comfortable serving, to somebody and drink it and be happy if somebody served it to me. So you don't have to spend a ton of money, and sometimes we don't have a big selection of $8 wines, but I just hold that standard of I'd rather have one good one than one good one and 4 bad ones and that nobody likes.
Yeah.
So. But currently, I just, we found some great Chile, there's some great stuff coming out of Chile that's, really affordable.
Barbara Golden had a question about headaches.
Headaches?
Barbara?
Yes, my question was, there's something in red wine that can sometimes cause a headache. And someone told me what it was one time, but I don't remember. So I don't always remember which wines to avoid.
So, there's several different things, like the most commonly blamed thing is sulfites, which is a preservative put in wines to make them last a little bit longer. I feel like sulfites have gotten a big bad rap because everybody says, oh, there's so many sulfites in I get headaches when I drink red wine because of the sulfites. I have to drink white wine, but there's typically more sulfites in white wine than there are in red wine.
Oh.
And there's somewhat of a byproduct of the fermentation process as well. Usually what it is red wine has crept up in alcohol per volume, and what you're probably experiencing is just a headache from your body going into the creme cycle, which is when you start to feel dehydrated. Because you can find like a really nice smooth red wine that's 14, 9, 15, almost 16% alcohol now. And then kind of going back to what I said earlier about the French wines being kind of 11, 12%. So that's a big jump. So you kind of just start getting a headache because you're getting dehydrated and hitting into that, hangover cycle.
Now, my wife has blamed tannins before.
And then there is the thing with tannins. I usually find tannins, get people more in the back of the mouth than a headache, but that's just the prolonged skin contact, and there could be something that the person's allergic to that was in the vineyard that got on, because when they make the wine, they don't wash the grapes. So whatever's on that grape skin is going into that wine. And that's why you really want to stick clear of a lot of, and a lot of the winemakers don't use any sort of pesticides or anything like that, because unless it rains and that stuff gets cleaned off, that's going into the bottle of wine. So sometimes, and then there's allergic reactions to wheat, fish, eggs, and dairy, or it could be what they're using in the fining agent, which is typically egg whites, but they have been known to use fish guts, and then there's chemical goo that they run through, and the fining process is they put that in, it sinks to the bottom of the barrel, pulling out a lot of the debris, and doing exactly what it is kind of filtering the wine. And then they'll run it through a filter again. So you'll see some wines that are unfined, unfiltered, and those tend to have a lot more skin and, what I describe as chewiness to them. I hope that answers the question, but yeah, it's just kind of a mystery, but most of it I usually find is the higher alcohol in the red wines is what the culprit to the headache, more so than the tannins or the fining process.
You are so impressive. Every time I've talked to you, I'm just so totally impressed. So, great place to visit, guys. We got to support
please
you.
Come on in anytime.
Yeah.
We're open 7 days a week.
Yeah. So I think you'll see an uptick in everybody coming in. So Jeff, unless there are any more questions, I would like to say thank you. You've been a great help, and you've inspired us all to drink a little more wine, and I hope we all see you soon.